Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, August 11th. It is 7 p.m. It's time for the Lakewood City Council study session. Tonight, we have 4 items for discussion. The first being the lodging tax. And for that, we have to call on our committee to Dean Burke and Ms. Linda Smith. That'd be fine. You go on, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself, that'd be fine.
Good evening. Thanks for having me here. My name is Dean Burke and I'm on the LTAC committee for Lakewood. I'm also the president and CEO of Visit Tacoma Pierce County. And last year was my first year on this committee, so I wasn't in the study session last year. I was just in the regular LTAC meeting. So this is my first study session with you all. So be gentle with me.
Welcome. We don't hit hard. Ms. Smith.
Good evening. Ooh, pull that back a little bit. My name is Linda Smith and I'm with the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce and I'm also on the LTAC committee. Thanks for inviting us this evening.
Thank you. Well, either of you that choose to go forward may take over. It's up to you.
They told me we were going to be asked questions, so I don't know what we're being asked to do. Okay.
Oh, Jason.
Okay, all right. Give you some. Okay, so the question was just some generals about tourism and such in the Lakewood area.
Can you pull your mic a little
Oh,
closer?
you bet. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll kind of give you some high level stats and I default to countywide kind of metrics. So I won't be able to in detail parse out Lakewood metrics specifically for this, but can certainly provide that at a later date. But we're still, as a general trend, chasing 2019 in metrics. We're really tired of those metrics. We're tired of having that pre-pandemic benchmark, but it is what we're dealing with. And I should say that is specific to volume of visitors. Because of inflation, because of the economy, all that, we've blown through 2019 metrics and everybody's doing fine financially in terms of, you know, lodging receipts and those bills getting paid. But volume of visitors is still down in most places. And this year, it's been on a climbing trajectory, but it's stalling out this year. A lot of international sentiment and just general concerns about the economy have created some hesitation and some whiplash effects to the market. So we do see in general across the county anywhere down from about 5% to 9% behind 2019 in volume. And then overall for the year, even though the last 2 years in a row, we've been doing year-on-year growth. This year, we go flat to just maybe slightly down, maybe 0 to -2 type trend. Most of the international sentiment hits Seattle more than it hits us. They really carry that burden up there. And while things like the cruise industry are clearly thriving up there and doing well for domestic travelers, international travel is down coming into Seattle. It's interesting because actually SeaTac Airport has cleared 2019. They're not comparing to that anymore. Now their volumes are beating records, but tourism visitation in Seattle is still behind 2019 as well. So we have to mention that because they're the big kids up the street, and what happens there certainly influences what happens here as well. Even though Pierce County does still kind of live on its own island in the state, you know, we do perform quite differently than the rest of the state in many ways. In terms of some specifics, maybe some color here in the county, you know, post-pandemic, the first things to recover with vengeance were group business and sports. People really didn't like having that taken away from them, especially with their kids involved. So that rocketed back really well. There was a little bit of redistribution in those groups, but it's soaring and continues to be our #1 group business sector going in the county. Conventions and meetings, lots of redistribution in those areas as well. And it's still changing shape. The bigger group conventions are finally starting to show recovery. And that's been good. That took a long time. That there was a lot of lag in that. So that's coming up. And then with leisure travel as a general rule, right now things are doing pretty good because it's summer and basically that 13-week run between the fence post and Memorial Day and Labor Day. Everybody's just kind of hanging on for dear life. So it's sunny, the weather's good, and things are going pretty well that way. And then the last comment I was going to make for you was, sorry, give me 1 second. I lost it and I apologize. If it comes back, I'll bring it up, but that's kind of the quick overview. So.
Well, the reason why I wanted Dean to speak first is because he's the big guns. He's got all of the bells and whistles and is able to look at everything from a 50,000-foot level and give you an overview of Pierce County. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have of what we are doing at the chamber, or if you just wanted to talk overall about what has occurred over this past year with the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee.
I remember what I was going to say. It was just real quick update is that between Fife, Hosmer, and Lakewood, specifically those three areas, since the pandemic, we've seen about 800 rooms removed from inventory in the low end sector. A lot of places that were converted into low income housing or just went offline completely, became something else. Those were not tourism facing properties. We're very clear on what those were and were not. But what's important to note about them, and sometimes you'll see it if you look deep in the metrics of like LTAC collections and stuff, they were disruptions to the collections of fees because they did collect fees that contributed back to LTACs and TPAs. So I did want to make that note because if you didn't know it and you were seeing any dips, that's usually where it is. For the most part, because LTACs are room rate based and the rates have been high enough, the dips haven't shown. But if you had a sharp eye, you would notice it's in there. That's why.
Good point.
Mr. Branstetter?
Yeah, I was wondering how and you mentioned traditional hotel motel rooms some of them are coming out of the system, but what is the trend on short-term rentals coming online in Lakewood and Pierce County as tourism venues or as just like temporary lodging venues for a variety of reasons?
I'll give it to you in two numbers. It'll tell you everything. In 2019, there were about 300 short-term rentals in Pierce County, countywide. And today there's about 3,200 in 7 years. So it's shockingly huge. There's about 6,000 hotel motel rooms across Pierce County and another 3,200 in short-term rental rooms.
So is the short-term rental occupancy rate is not something that you're able to track well or
We do.
you're set up to do that?
We can monitor it, not with the same clarity that we can on hotel motel. It is a little bit different system for seeing that, but we do, and there's a little bit more latency for us in seeing it, usually about 60 to 75 days latency on what the performance looks like. For the most part, they are holding steady, steadier than hotel motel is. And I, again, apologize. I don't have, I can certainly show you stats for that. I send a monthly newsletter out that is very data rich. Make sure you get a copy. You can see it there and you can see the STR data. I just sent one out a couple of weeks ago. But they're healthy. There's no slowing them down right now. The biggest threat that STR performance has is simply government, and how cities and towns are allowing them to be zoned or not. You know, that's just a kind of always a tug of war of sorts. So.
Well, one of the conflicts in terms of those is that that as they grow, that many of them are properties that come out of the rental housing market at a time of when trying to increase the amount of housing is problematic. And so it's an ongoing to look to start how to incentivize housing and disincentivize losing housing, okay, while still supporting the ability of actual property owners to try to do what seems to be in their best interest, given the challenges in the rental housing market for small folks over there with trying to maintain and responsible tenants and being able to go and do that. I had one other question for the two of you, in that the city is in the in our development of parks, we have focused on upgrading and dealing with the parks throughout the city, okay? And particularly they have been parks, and while Fort Stelicum is a regional park, and American Lake and Harry Todd have attributes of a regional park, but they're primarily neighborhood parks. At least they're viewed that way by the people who live near them. To be able to go in, we're about finished with a firm upgrade of Wars Lake Park, and that we've now shifted our focus to trying to bring park spaces into the central business district, okay? You know, we've acquired some land over near to, that sort of expands the footprint of the Colonial Plaza public space, and looking for some other things. But that historically, the lodging tax funding applicants who do events, many of which take place in parks, being able to go and do that, have been stable and repetitive. Okay, in other words, there are people that know how to write the applications that they submit to you to score well, to be able to go and do that, while we're trying, particularly, I think, as we make inroads into a downtown park, where we're sort of looking for some new opportunities to be able to go to do that. And I'm concerned that we have I guess my concern would be, would there be a way, or would you be in favor of targeting some applications geographically, such as asking to have applications committed for events at the Colonial Plaza or in the downtown area, to be able to go and do that? Because I think it's true. We find this dynamic true in human services grant applications too. People who are successfully been writing them know how to impress us. And that, but that if we don't particularly fence out, and the city finds that problem with the federal government. We have applications that are very difficult for cities the size of Lakewood or smaller to be successful in writing, whereas cities like the Seattles and the Tacomas and the Spokanes, you know, are able to do that, because the application process lends itself to cities that have robust staffs and experience in using magic words that the federal government likes. And so I guess I would ask that as you look at cycles for 2027 and beyond, which is when I think we're going to start to be able to bring some central business district venues online, of trying to encourage folks to site things there by looking at the application process and see how such an incentivization might take place through that. You know, whether it's give people 10 more points if they're going to cite it in the central business district, to be able to go and do that. Because events in the central business district, while they can promote tourism, to do that, they can promote other values for the city that the city is trying to develop in terms of the business community. So I would just ask you to sort of give some thought around that. Okay, and across that, I guess, you know, we sort of limited the size of your committee to be able to maintain the balance, so that and it's kind of been, I think the determining factor has been trying to get enough hoteliers to be on the committee. So that's why there's only the two of you. But I think if there is there may be some advantage to trying to do some recruitment across both sectors to try to get some better ideas. Okay, and I don't say better ideas, more ideas. I guess that's it's a discussion to be able to go and do that, because I think that your committee should help us with some initiatives about how to use this funding, in addition to just going through the mechanics of allocating it. Okay, I think your insights would be valued in that regard as well. And then I guess I have one last question that I would ask. Okay, and that is that the state law and the city's policy are that folks who apply, should really be going to do that. And do we have criteria that we should either ask the state through our legislative advocacy process to make some changes to be able to expand and make more effective use of LTAC dollars? I mean, do you feel somewhat constrained? I know we were dealing with a number of years ago about the idea that, particularly on the capital side, projects had to be city owned, or some other nuance of it, where we have potential development of things for tourism, but that it's other entities that want to take them on but could use some help, or other ideas, so that as you go about your work over the next few meetings, if there is a legislative impediment that we should advocate to try to get removed, that you think would make the lodging tax funding make for a better impact on the city and the community, I think we would be glad to hear that, and at least consider how we might advocate for it. And advocating for things like that, sometimes it's not a one-year thing. It's sometimes you got to get started sometime in order to eventually get change in the state legislative side. Thank you. That's all I have, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of questions. The split between capital and non-capital that we have imposed, is that something you know, that we should continue, or is that something we should just, do you see that in other locales where they do the split between capital and non-capital?
Lakeland's is at 50, right? 50%?
4-3,
4-3.
non-capital, capital.
I don't think it's an issue. I do see it often. And I would real quick kind of address something that you said, Councilmember Branstetter, that I actually don't see legislative handcuffs around LTAC. Actually, in my opinion, I've served on multiple LTACs and I work adjacent to many others across the state as well. And that is that the LTAC language at its root is too vague. It's actually where it performs best is when an LTAC committee then comes in on itself and then creates its own additional policy that's even tighter to focus it more. We see a lot of LTAC monies in a lot of places get very much misspent, misdirected, or even just attempted to be misspent because of the kind of the vagueness to the law. I don't think that like the sample of, government-owned entities has been an issue per se. But the vagueness of the rest of it has been a challenge. So for example, the Pierce County LTAC has adopted a set of additional standards and metrics into the scoring and to the ROI requirements to focus the LTAC expenditures down to the heart of what they were built for. The TPA kind of did that when it was born years later. We kind of, our joke internally is that the TPA was born of the sins of the LTAC because of the vagueness of the language, and the TPA tightened that down. So those are some things I recommend, and those are ideas that I'm hoping to dovetail into this committee, or to consider at least as we go forward, so that you don't have things like organizations rubber stamping their process year after year, and that you can also refocus into zones that need attention. You can award incentive toward zones that need attention, so that you can truly have forward momentum and new development. You're not just constantly trying to put a crowbar under an existing thing and leverage it, but to actually develop the new thing. So I do think it's important that you have the capital component for that, because capital is critical. Asset development, either whether new development or enhancement of an existing asset, is critical. And that especially through these lenses and the context of this conversation, that they are tourism facing enhancements or developments, that they're not just localized. You made a comment about that earlier with regard to a couple of the parks that are local versus regional. So, bringing that mindset and those lenses to the conversation, and tightening some metrics around those are completely doable, completely legal. You're not exceeding, you're not going out of bounds of the state legislation rules on it. You're tightening them down, you're improving them so that they're even more focused to your own needs.
So I'd like to dovetail on your first point then. Can you give us an example of an LTAC out there? There's only so many of them here locally where they've done what you just said, where they created their own policies under the state law that made it much more focused and therefore more successful.
The Pierce County one for sure. So unincorporated Pierce County,
Yeah.
Which is the biggest one in the county. It collects several $1 million a year in funds. I am also on the Puyallup LTAC committee, and they were very clear when I came in that they are very interested in looking under the hood at that deeply, and we're getting ready to have that second conversation soon as well. So, and there are others outside of Pierce County that do it as well. Yeah.
So when I look at, and this is for both of you, we're not leaving you out, this year's awards, and there, over the last 2 or 3 years, big increases for Friends of Lake Wald, big, very large increase for Lakewood Playhouse. Can you talk about those two recipients?
A real short comment. Last year was my first year on this committee, so it was my first time to look at it, and that meeting was my introductory meeting to it. As I recall, with the Playhouse, there had been some capital. There were some one-time upgrades that were happening there that were important. But the rest I will defer to Linda because she's got some more history on that than I do, I think.
I believe that it was also around a capital improvement project or campaign at Lakewold. And so what they basically needed was more help in getting marketing dollars. And so they just kind of split the difference, if you will. And I think they asked for an increase in marketing and advertising dollars so that they could focus their monies that they had available. Because weren't they talking about building a meeting space, kind of a carriage house?
Yeah, and I think they got, but we can't use
No, because
capital
it's
money
not.
because we have to own the facility.
That's correct.
For our
That's
capital.
correct.
Yeah, I think they did it.
So we have to do marketing to kind of replace the dollars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. So,
So that was a one and done rather than the wash, rinse, repeat cycle that we see a lot of our different nonprofits in particular, where they have an annual type of a celebration or function. And so we see a lot of those as far as repeat is concerned.
so you talked about sports, youth sports, and then it used to be high school, a lot of high school sports, but we've lost a lot of those because they don't have the thing at the Tacoma Dome anymore, right? The football.
That was the only event that went away, but
Okay.
that event shrank on itself, so it wasn't a loss.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And so we're supporting that through the Visit Tacoma dollars? Is that how you would look at that? Because there's nothing on here that says youth sports promotion.
Correct, yeah, under the Visit Tacoma umbrella through our Sports Commission arm, all those things are covered. We have several other WIA events in this example that drive into Lakewood, impact into Lakewood for that. And then the products that we support with Forest Telecom Park and those efforts as well.
So what would surprise us on room nights on this list? What is something that we're doing that would surprise us on the number of room nights it produces?
I think I'm interested in watching the trajectory of Summerfest, despite the fact that it's right in the middle of peak season. It is growing, and it's sometimes it takes a while to turn those things from being local facing to destination facing. So that's a good thing, and it continues to drive other improvements for the park. And then that turns over into a lot of what we see as far as the surprising things that happen that aren't named on this list that are tucked up underneath are some of the bigger bids that we'll win for. So like when we had cyclocross national championships,
That's
when
right,
we've had cross country, the cross country development there, we've been on we helped that group.
Yeah.
They come in now independently and make an ask.
Okay.
We taught them how to do that because we had been building them up over years. And then
Right.
with the adjacent cross-country facility we built at Chambers Creek, the two echoing off each other have made a substantial lift, so, now this region is hosting, 8, 9 cross-country events now up from 2, and we're making, we've put in over 41,000 room nights since that in 6 years on cross-country as an aggregate. So I think that's an interesting one. Sometimes you don't see the impact of that on the face, but as it layers up, it builds up. I'm very interested to see the trajectory, as noted earlier, about what's coming in the city center with the plaza and how that can switch. So yeah, I think there's some development stories there that are coming as well.
Okay. And we have another hotel coming online, right?
Yes.
Next year, I guess, or will that be done? I don't know.
I
I haven't looked at progress there,
I
but
don't remember off the top of my head. We have 6 countywide coming in that are in progress right now of some stage. So yeah, I think over the next 3 years, we're going to add about 1,000 rooms into the county. So Lakewood's part of that. Lakewood, Puyallup, and Tacoma are the prime.
thank you.
Dean, you want to talk a little bit about the gymnastics meet that you had? I mean, I know that it's growing exponentially. I would assume that that type of business is going to only look good for Lakewood as, you know, the spillover continues, right?
Yeah, that's a compression story. So compression means, you know, we have a big event somewhere that bleeds out countywide. 10 years ago, we recruited a very small girls gymnastics event into Tacoma, and it was one day, and it was maybe 300 girls, and it was just a regional event. But we sat down with them, and we understood what the potential was. And fast forward 10 years later, it's now a 5-day event with 4,800 competitors from 36 states, and with their families included. It's the biggest it rolls into the biggest sports weekend in Pierce County. It makes 15,000 room nights in less than a week just on sports. So, and an event like that is very family, budget minded. So Puyallup and Lakewood are always surprised to see how much of their hotels are filled with that versus Tacoma, even though it's in downtown Tacoma. They don't want to pay $250 a night or higher for a room. So they come into these communities and then they, you know, go to South Center and they go to Lakewood Town Center and they, you know, because they need stuff. They're here for a week, you know, they've come in from out of town. So those are big things. Those are the types of trajectories that we look for when we're building things. We're constantly looking for long runways into much bigger things. Another example, Chambers Creek, you know, starting small across country. We're on our trajectory to get the NCAA Division I there. We don't have a time yet, but that's the flight plan, right? And that's an off-season event that happens in the winter when we need it the most, when we need lodging, nights, and tourism that impacts the most greatest. Same with the gymnastics. It's a February event. So that's the kind of logic we look at in that. We're kind of rebuilding that logic with Fort Steilacoom right now around cyclocross, simply because we've had some redistribution in the deck in terms of event promoters and their strength and where they stand. We want to get another national championship back in there. The sport wants to have it back in there. We want to get another international championship back in there. We've had that as well. So, you know, we're always looking from, you know, local to the sky on those types of developments. Thanks.
We also want to talk about FIFA, although not a lot's allowed to be discussed at this point apparently, but it's a coming and it's going to be big. It's going to be a huge impact across Western Washington and all of Washington actually. So that is what, 4 weeks? Is it 4 weeks of international visitors?
For our region,
Yeah.
about 4 weeks of play, 6 games. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can talk on that if you want.
please do.
Okay, I feel like I've been on the mic a lot. Do you all want me to talk about FIFA a little bit? Again, I can't disclose everything at this point because not everything's final yet, but as you are all aware, so next summer from June, I think 13th is the opening game through mid-July. We have FIFA World Cup in the United States, 16 cities in North America, 11 in the United States. The rest are in Canada and Mexico. There'll be 104 games, I believe, played. Seattle has 6 matches. And we'll have, as you might have seen in the news, the Seattle Local Organizing Committee designated what they call fan zones out across the state. This is entirely new to FIFA and new to the World Cup format. It's not been done in any other games, and it's not being done anywhere else in the United States. So in Seattle itself, there'll be the Fan Fest, which is kind of like an Olympic Village, if you will. And that will be kind of ground zero for the big activities. But they've invited 9 other cities across the state to participate in these designations that are called fan zones. These will be places where locals can come see the game for free, watch it on some big screens, and participate in some celebration around it during those 6 activations of those games. And maybe the finals, maybe the bronze in the finals too later. It's making the games accessible for free to 83% of the state population. And that's kind of a big story, just kind of the unity around getting a state to hum on one idea together, resonate on one note. which is rare in this climate right now. So I'm excited for that, if nothing else, the fact that we are going to make the appearance that we're doing something together. I think that's a good signal to the world. It will drive people into varying markets for different reasons. For example, Spokane will probably host a team camp. So the fans that, whatever that team may be, will probably can't shore up over there for a few weeks and watch their team as they're able. Uniquely in Pierce County, Tacoma was designated a fan zone, but what is unique there is that the Puyallup Tribe of Indians is the host game sponsor for the Seattle games, and they're in Tacoma. So that brings some interesting optics and activations and presence, because the tribe will be in Seattle at the stadium, which will not be called Lumen Field during the games. It'll just be called Seattle Stadium, by the way. Nobody gets to brand their stadiums during a World Cup. But that was fun. So, and then, and the tribe will also be marketing in the Fan Fest as well, driving people down into the area. So, we'll be working shoulder to shoulder with them on further driving those fans into the fabric of the county and to experience the different assets that we have here, and then pulling them back into fan zones and into Seattle, whatever that may look like. And yeah, so that's about, what is this? This is August now. So, but as much as I can say at this point, it's been a tenuous road of hurry up and wait. Just some color commentary example of hurry up and wait. We were promised a document from the organizing committee in early February. We still don't have it. So there's late, and then there's FIFA late. So it is an interesting exercise in patience, but it'll be an exciting event. So.
Mr. Mayor, you're part of that team. Did you have anything you want to add? Are you part of LTAC?
Yeah.
Did you want to add something?
Sure.
Go for it.
I just want to comment on the group of the committee and certainly the quality of the applications from my perspective that we've received over the last few years. They've been outstanding. I do think that, the money has been well utilized and has resulted in some great activities here in the city of Lakewood and opportunities for more tourism and more engagement in the community by folks outside of Lakewood. So that's been good.
If I'm looking at this right, the income has been pretty steady over the last 5 years, right? As far as your revenue coming in, it looks like it's been pretty
Pretty solid.
stable.
Yeah.
That's good. Are there any other questions? Well, are there any questions for us? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I'm going to return the gavel to the mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Madam Clerk, for allowing me to my back-to-back meetings between cities. So next on our agenda tonight is the review of the surface water management fee code amendments. For this, we have Angie Silva, our Assistant Director of Planning and Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Starting on page 10 of your agenda packet is a proposed draft ordinance and draft code amendments related to chapter 3.38 of the Lakewood Municipal Code associated with stormwater, surface water management fee. This is intended to align with current practices and remove outdated provisions. No substantive edits are proposed in the packet today. Specifically, historically, this chapter has not been amended substantively since 2019, so it's ripe for some refresh, if you will. The 4 key areas of amendments in your packet today discuss fee updates, specifically updating fees to reflect current 2025 surface water to utility rates, removes an outdated table that concluded in 2024, while still retaining a 2.5% inflationary annual adjustment for 2026 and subsequent years. In addition to that, the proposed amendments also do a minor organizational change and include flood control mitigation as part of use of funds as allowed by state law. Third component clarifies that a comprehensive rate study should be evaluated at least every 6 years to evaluate the adequacy and equity of the stormwater service charges. And last but not least, some housekeeping edits to remove outdated language related to nonprofit exemption, which was previously phased out in 2023 and no longer applicable in today's context. Also included in your packet is background materials as it relates to why we have Chapter 3.38, but also surface and stormwater fee utility assessments here in Washington State, how that relates to compliance with the Clean Water Act and provisions as part of Department of Ecology with the state. In addition to that, it provides an overview of the current fee structure in the chapter, which again is not being substantively amended, as well as, again, eligible uses of those funds by state law. In terms of next steps, the council is scheduled for a public hearing on September 2nd, followed with possible action at your September 15th meeting. With that, sir, that was a high-level overview of the proposed amendments before you. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a quick question, then I'll open it up to others. Just out of curiosity, looking at the service charges updated on page 18 of the packet, which is 3.38.050. Is there a reason why we historically have charges within the code as opposed to a fee schedule that's updated annually? Because then always we're having to update the code as opposed to a fee schedule we do across departments.
Great question. Typically, municipalities through the authority and state law codified their stormwater utility rates. So whether you're in the city of Bellingham, Marysville, Tacoma, et cetera, oftentimes those rates and what the inflation charge should be related to that. So it's a codified policy. And oftentimes when that is updated, it's through code. I've rarely seen utility rates adopted through resolution, but I would not say that is not uncommon. It's mostly codified with some rare examples.
So arguably, if inflation increases annually, we could go in and update the code as opposed to a fee schedule annually.
Correct. Typically, what jurisdictions do to validate any type of increase in service charge like this, you have to do your homework. Hence the language of suggesting an evaluation of the through a rate study every 6 years to back that up for documentation.
And that's what we did here.
That is correct, sir.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Mr. Brandstetter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would note that this particular function is really our only fully internal utility, you know, in terms, it's sort of what keeps us from while we're not a full service city, at least we're not a no service city. But my question is about the 6-year rate study. In 2018, we hired a consultant to do a rate study that led to the 2.5, and it led to the table that we're now going to take out because it just reflected the 2.5 and other things. And the recommendation is to create in policy the idea to do a comprehensive rate study every 6 years. Does that mean that one is due now? Given that we did one in 2018, or are we starting the clock with this ordinance?
You are correct, Councilmember. The last rate study was completed 2018, 2019 by FCS Consultants. The reason for those types of rate studies is not only to, and why you look at it every 6 years is a component of that is your capital projects and the forecasting of that over a 10, 20, but specifically a 6-year window. But in addition to those rate studies, you also assess maintenance and operational needs and any costs related to personnel, but equipment or services needed to that. Another element of the program and the intent of those fees are to cover is education and outreach, as well as enforcement and compliance with our national pollutant elimination discharge system, NPDES permit with ecology. I think I missed a letter there, but
Yeah.
I think you're getting my gist, sir. But part of that is to really look at a programmatic in over a multiple year scenario. So going back to the mayor's question, why not include in the fee schedule? Part is that you need to forecast what that service need is over an extended period of time. Minimum is 6 years, ideally 10, 20 to align with their comprehensive plan capital facilities planning as well. So it's really a huge forecast and a number of programmatic efforts, but we're getting close to, we need to start dusting off those books. In addition to, I believe this council is scheduled tentatively for September 8th to talk about the surface and stormwater capital program. I think it's on the calendar for a conversation, what that looks like today, not only maintenance and operations, but also capital, especially in road projects, which is really focused on not only curb gutter and sidewalk, but also improving our stormwater infrastructure throughout the city.
So I guess the question is in the 2018 study, when the consultant came in, we were we were in fact in a window of where we'd not made any changes in rates for some time, okay? And we were looking at maybe not having enough money to do all the things we wanted to do on the capital side. And so we brought in the consultant that you mentioned who was well-versed in both looking at our problem as well as helping us craft a solution. And it does seem to me that with this ordinance, we're at the core of the solution was the 2.5% inflationary increase in rates, as well as the phase out of some properties that we had exempted from the beginning of cityhood to be able to go and do that. So when we talk about doing a rate study every 6 years, I guess we're not necessarily talking about a rate study that had to be as comprehensive as what we did in 2018 because we're more stable. No, would that be the right way to look at it?
I think that's an assessment of what information has been collected as part of the capital facilities planning related to the comprehensive plan as it relates to stormwater infrastructure, forecast of hard surface or impervious surface growth based on our growth projections, but also rate increases as it relates to personnel costs and maintenance and operation contract increases related to that. So it may not be, I want to say it's a case by case. I wouldn't say a comprehensive deep dive. It has to be an outside party consultant as necessary every 6 years. Some of that could be updated or fine-tuned in-house as well. And the proposed language in the ordinance itself does not preclude the city to pursue internal rate study update and provide that information to council or seek professional services by a third party.
And so how is the rate study and rate study recommendations or finding related to comprehensive plan updates?
Impervious surface growth is part of a projection in your environmental impact statement. So part of that growth, number of housing units, number of jobs over a 20-year period, assumes a rate of hard surfaces that also have impacts not only to surface water, streams, wetlands, et cetera, but how you plan to mitigate that. That was a component of the draft and final environmental impact statement as part of in the comprehensive plan. The mitigation of that was part of the city's current stormwater mitigation controls, specifically outlined in Title 12, which is currently set for an update that will be coming to this council by the end of this year, early 2026.
And in the phase out of the exemptions for properties that were owned by nonprofit entities, churches and other nonprofit entities, and we're now, I guess we phased them out 2 years ago. Has that gone smoothly with good acceptance, or are we? I seem to recall like 3 years ago, there were some folks that were concerned that change was about to take place. But I haven't heard anything recently. But do we have, how many exemptions do we still have in place for other reasons?
In terms of phasing out nonprofits, I only could think of one site that we're dealing ongoing litigation related to that and depositions. But since the year plus I've been here, that is the only site I've heard about stormwater controls. But I might look at our city attorney to correct me if I'm off.
I'm sorry, I was looking at something else. Could you repeat the question?
It's related to phasing out exemptions, specifically churches, nonprofits, and if we've had any litigation or concerns since that phased out.
I always have concerns if we aren't very careful around specifically faith-based organizations. There's a whole separate body of law relating to how we would regulate those. So I would say that what we would prefer to do, we've not had litigation specifically. We've had a couple of things where churches were trying to assert exemptions from things with the city, for example, stormwater runoff, the fees associated with that. And we've just had to tread carefully. I've dealt with that in my previous life before I came to Lakewood as well, just the exemptions that churches sometimes look for. But we have to really focus on the distinction between things that we can make an exception for and the distinction between those and things that would actually create more liability for cities. For example, building safety, something of that nature. And we would want to take it on a case-by-case basis.
And then in that the stormwater function is a utility, how do various parts of the city, okay, such as parks or some others, do they pay these stormwater fees through a transfer into the utility account?
So part of one of the sections, specifically 3.38040 identifies all the applicable exemptions. As you can see in that, starting on page, I believe that's 17 and 18 of your packet, it does not include parks or city-owned property as part of that exemption, sir.
So how are we, and we're addressing that in our biennial budget, so where there's a transfer from some departments into the.
I believe so, but Madam City Manager.
Yes, they are paid. Actually, the fees are paid to the county and then the county remits them to the city.
The fees are paid to the county and then paid back to us?
Yes, the surface water management fees are on the property tax statements. And so the city receives the property tax statements that has the swim portion of the fees. And we make that payment to the county. The county actually gets a fee for collecting those. So it's just a more efficient way for the county to collect it on the city's behalf.
Okay, thank you. I was sure it was happening. I just wasn't sure of the process, but the city isn't treated any differently than I am, I guess, in terms of where the fees showed up. Well, I do want to say that I have heard from business entities in the city that there are sort of annual efforts by the staff engaged with this with stormwater and integrity, that they have found them to be positive to work with and actually helping promote good results. So I think that, you know, that apart from doing a good job of collecting the money and of doing the capital projects, I think that the ongoing efforts that are related to the public outreach items that are required with our permit and being able to go and do that is is something that I think that the city has been doing well to be able to go and do that. And along with other things, I certainly enjoy the annual calendar. That's all I have, Ms. Mayor.
Very good. Mr. Pearson. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with the increases in residential densities, as far as like being able to put multiple units on one lot, if you had, one of those properties where you've got multiple ADUs and multiple units on a lot, are they still just collecting $134 fee for like potentially 3 or 4 units, or are they unit based?
It's, if I recall, sir, the existing code, which is not proposed to change, is based on equivalent residential units. So correct. That would be based on, the definition of that is shall mean a parcel or contiguous parcels, not by unit. So that's how the code is defined and not proposed to be changed as part of this.
So they could have 4 units on a parcel or something and be just paying the single like residential fee, like you just had one house on it, right?
Correct. And the code further defines a residential equivalent of, I want to say it's a little north of 2,400 square feet. So it's part of that unit cost of the overall parcel itself. So how it defines the parcel, the residential equivalent of that parcel by a square footage count. The square footage count, if you look at a comparison of other stormwater utility fees, is roughly the same. So 2,400 square feet or a little bit north of that is pretty average amongst municipalities with this stormwater utility.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Laura Sella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Silva, for this good overview. A hypothetical question. So if there was a large developer building multifamily housing in an area that was currently impervious because it's heavily paved, and the work that they did was breaking up some of that concrete and putting in some green space, would they conceivably get a break in their fees for this?
No, part of the development proposal would not look at stormwater fee assessments. Part of the development proposal will be looking at compliance with the current ecology stormwater manuals. So that would be a combination of new and redevelopment. So replacing hard surface with grass, et cetera. How does that relate to stormwater controls and best management practices? But also they would be required to upgrade that stormwater infrastructure to current standards. So even though an area may be developed, we look across the street that was developed in the 1980s, et cetera, that is outdated stormwater utility infrastructure compliant at that time. Science, technology, et cetera, has been updated as we sit in 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Silva. Appreciate it as always. Next, we'll have a review of the ordinance updating the business license model threshold with our Economic Development Manager, Becky Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. As was mentioned, this is an update to the business license model ordinance. This is affecting Lakewood Municipal Code 5.02.020. Essentially, there is one change that's going to be effective January 1st, 2026. It is a one-time increase to a higher threshold for out of city businesses that are doing business here in the city to $4,000 from the original amount of $2,000 and combined with automatic periodic increase every 4 years later based on cumulative inflation. So essentially, it is under, as I mentioned, 5.02020 exemptions and waivers, item number 7, and which reads, any person or business whose annual value of products, gross proceeds or sales or gross income of the business in the city is equal to or less than 2,000, and here's where the change comes. 2,000 for businesses located within the city, limits and $4,000 for businesses who do not maintain a place of business within the city. So what we're asking you is to approve an ordinance 834 to accept this change. Let's see, the automatic periodic increases, as I mentioned, will occur every 4 years based on cumulatively inflation. It's applicable to general business licenses only. And on page 30 of your packet gives a little bit more detail on the actual change. And state BLS, our business licensing system team, is asking cities to adopt this by August 26th. And we will be coming back to city council next week to approve ordinance 834 at your next regular council meeting. And that's all I have.
So just thinking through this for a minute.
Yeah.
Because many of the business licenses that we're seeing the increase are home-based businesses, a lot of them, not all of them, obviously. Those would be out of city potentially. And so if they have gross revenue in their professional services, whatever they're doing in their home office, it has to exceed the $4,000 amount before they have to.
So the home-based business would be a business located within the city of Lakewood.
What if it's in UP, but they do business for folks here?
And then that would apply to the threshold, which is being raised to 4,000.
Right. So that's the kind of business we're really talking about for the most
Yeah.
part, I think.
Correct.
Ancillary work in Lakewood. Okay. It was just an update to the code to comply with the legislative change.
Correct.
Any questions? Sure.
Have we calculated the financial impact of the change?
We have not. It should be fairly insignificant. We can certainly take a look at that. Thank you.
Well, in the absence of any other questions, thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Last but not least, we always leave the best for last, right? The lawyers taking up the last topic. I'm getting no humor out of the city attorney tonight, apparently. So review of the city council meeting scheduled by none other than our city attorney, Ms. Wachter. Yeah, we appreciate you, Joan.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight,
Yes, I'm
Mr.
sure.
Mayor and members of the council, about the topic of what your council meeting schedule should be. A year ago at this time, you had the first and third Mondays were regular meetings at 7 o'clock. The second and fourth Mondays were study sessions at 7 o'clock. In January of this year, you switched to having the first Monday at 7 o'clock be a regular meeting, the second Monday at 7 o'clock be a study session, and the third Monday be a combination of the two going at 6 o'clock. What you have in front of you is a very brief iteration of, you've got hyperlinks to those actions in front of the council. You also have information that tells you that you're getting the same amount of public feedback that you previously got under the former types of meetings. And that may well be because your dates haven't changed for when you have your regular meetings. The times changed a little bit. As you know from those previous studies of the ways that this can be done, it's a pretty wide open field, and it doesn't really take particular legal acumen to provide guidance to you. You can pretty much do what you want. The main rule for an optional code city is that for your regular meetings, they must be noticed to the public as the regular meeting. It's not the 24 hours in advance. It's that on certain days, that is when the public could come here, and that the regular business of the council will be done at that meeting. Some places do it once a month. Other places do it twice a month. We're doing it 3 times a month. I think there's one city doing it 4 times a month if you count the study sessions. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I think the deputy mayor and I would advocate that you all go back to 5 meetings a month, starting January 1st. That would be appropriate. At least 3 times a month for those, yeah. Mr. Branstetter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank for bringing this back for a review. I know
Certainly.
when we made the change, it was not something that I was fully in favor of, to be able to go and do that. And I would acknowledge that had to do with the way I went about preparing for meetings and doing things to go on. So, I would say that, I certainly would not want to contract more than where we are. I think that we have been able, with this schedule, been able to deal with all the legislative issues we have had to deal with. I sometimes wonder whether we have as fully vetted them before the meeting that we had to do that is going on. I think that if I have a concern about the schedule that we have now, it is that we're meeting on the first, second, and third Mondays, okay? And that goes on, and that so I'm not totally comfortable with the occasional 3-week lapse between getting together and doing that. And I would, if I was to look for a change, I would much rather meet on the first, second, and fourth Mondays. In having the meeting that is a joint study session and the and regular meeting be on the fourth, and that would eliminate, and there were a couple of times of where there were some issues that we dealt with, either in open session or executive session that didn't, that not being able to readdress them for 3 weeks in terms of being able to discuss and learn from each other, our perspectives. You know, I have found that to be at times a problem that created some, wasn't quite sure where we're going. And I think that there were a couple of times when at the first meeting of the month, there were some items that then appeared on the agenda that had emerged within the previous 3 weeks that we didn't have a chance to actually get briefed or discussed at a study session, because the 3-week gap leaves it open to more likely for things to emerge than a 2-week gap does. Our previous schedule is that we had sometimes when there were 2-week gaps, sometimes when there weren't gaps, but we weren't dealing with the 3-week gaps. So if I were to advocate for a change, it would be to have that hybrid study session meeting be on the fourth Monday. And that would eliminate that occasional in some months that long gap between the times that we get together, because I have found that joint meeting, that the study session doesn't feel like a study session. It doesn't feel like the session that we've had tonight, of where we really discussed things both with each other and with whoever was here presenting to us, to being able to go and do that. It's kind of it's kind of more like the study session items are really just more like reports from the city manager, or that have been there. They don't feel like a true study session. And I think that, but
Well, let's see what.
the only way that could be resolved is to move the study session and hold the study session at 6 o'clock and then adjourn for 15 minutes and then hold a regular session. we're kind of on a schedule of where we've tried it. We're not totally dissatisfied with it, but don't, at least in my case, don't totally like it either. Okay, so again, again, my encouragement would be to go to first, second, and fourth, and that would alleviate some of my concerns.
Might trade one extra meeting for 5 desserts on the driveway, but we'll see. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that it's been successful. I think that we've gotten through all the business that we, have had on the calendar and, got the input that we're looking for. I would ask city staff, what's their input on how has it been for them with preparing for, one less meeting a month, and has that been noticeable and positive or negative or, and then I do think, with having occasionally a little longer break that happens a couple times a year or whatever, that allows for people to try to maybe target that time for a vacation and not be impacted with missing meetings and stuff like that. So there's definitely the cons where you're not having a meeting for 3 weeks, but there's some pros that it kind of allows for a baked in break if you want to take it. So.
Want to address that?
I think just in short, we serve at the pleasure of council. So whichever direction the city council goes, we are happy to accommodate.
Thought we were the politicians.
That's the truthful answer.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate it. Did you have a thought, Councilmember Bell?
I think that it's been going really well, actually. I like the fact that the public comment that you gave us those stats on that those are been the same. It's not like we're missing out on it. I do like the point that Councilmember Pearson brought up, that it gives us an opportunity to make some plans so we don't have to actually miss a meeting. So I do appreciate that. But I do feel like we're getting the same amount of information and we're having the same amount of feedback and preparation for it. So I am for the schedule as it is now.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate what Mr. Brandstetter said. I will say that when we have 3 weeks off, I miss seeing you guys. But I also understand where Mr. Pearson and Ms. Bell talk about being able to schedule our time so that we don't have to miss meetings by having that flexibility. So I'm fine either way. But I do think we are accomplishing what we need to with 3 weeks a month.
Well, thank you. It's certainly, as the city manager pointed out, it's council's rules, so you can make them as you wish. All kidding aside, one of the reasons we stepped down from doing 4 meetings, one of the many reasons, was to give perhaps an opportunity to have different engagement through the mechanisms of desserts in the driveway. And, again, all kidding aside, they've actually been pretty good about getting more qualitative feedback from residents, in my opinion. And so now I have 2 this week. And so I'll get lots of feedback. But I think those have been kind of helpful. And I do also echo Mr. Pearson's comments about it does give one an opportunity in the summertime, especially to take a couple of weeks off if you wanted to. I took 2 weeks off this summer and I didn't miss a single meeting, which was nice. And so that's the rare occasion when you get a chance to do that. And I think there's some value as long as it doesn't diminish the quality and quantity of public comment and feedback, and it doesn't seem to be the case. But again, it's council's rules, however you want to deal with them on a consensus basis. I just ask that we don't spend 20 hours looking to revise the rules like some other cities do.
Not that we're naming any.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you for the update. I don't sense a groundswell, but it's always an opportunity. You can bring up change to the council rules at any time, for sure. So
Correct.
if the need arises and this doesn't seem to work for council, you can always make those changes.
We, based on the discussion tonight, we will not be bringing anything forward with regard to council rules unless and until the city manager says there's been a change, the council wishes to hear on this topic again, and we'll bring it
Great.
back at that time.
We appreciate the follow-up. Well, that effectively concludes the items for tonight. Those items scheduled for the next regular meeting, August 18, are set forth in your packet here. So we'll turn to reports by Ms. Kraus.
Good evening. My update is going to be pretty brief today, but it doesn't say that your calendar is brief. You have quite a few events still. So tomorrow we have Summer Nights at the Pavilion concerts, and that will be the Eagles tribute at Fort Steilacoom Park. August 12th also is the Steilacoom Neighborhood Association starting at 6:30 p.m. We really don't have any control over the neighborhood one, not like we do the desserts on the driveway, since these are scheduled by the neighborhoods. The following day, however, we have the desserts in the driveway at the Lakewood Library. August 14th, we have the N Brothers Bakery grand opening event at 12 p.m. In the town center. August 16th, we have Candlewick Glen Summer Picnic in Candlewick Drive. August 19th, between 6:30 and 8 p.m. is your last Summer Nights at the Pavilion, and this will be Wally and the Beeves. August 20th, the following day, is the historic Fort Steilacoom sign dedication event at Fort Steilacoom Park, starting at 6:30 p.m. August 20.
6:30? Is it
Yes.
6:30 or I have 5 to 6:30 in the calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5 to 6:30.
Okay.
Sorry about
Yep,
that.
Yep.
August 21st, between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. is the Clover Park School District Year 25-26 School Kickoff Event at Harry Lang Stadium. August 21st is Desserts in the Driveway, Clover Creek Neighborhood at Tyee Elementary School. August 27th, between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. is the Housing Roundtable with Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck, and that we have participation by our Mayor Whalen and Assistant Public Works Director Angie Silva. August 28th at 12:30 p.m. is the Lhasa Gravelly Lake Commons groundbreaking. Also, August 28th at 6 p.m. is Desserts in the Driveway, Fort Steilacoom Park Pavilion. August 29th from 3 p.m. till 7:30 p.m. is the Asia Pacific Cultural Grand opening of the new building on South Tacoma Way. So that is your August calendar, pretty much something every day. But I want to just cover a few days in September. September 1st, we have from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. Buffalo Soldiers Labor Day Festival at Shaney Stadium. September 6th, from noon till 6 p.m. is the Fiesta de Familia at Fort Steilacoom Park. Also, September 6th at 11 a.m. is the Tacoma Garden Club 100th Anniversary Flower Show at St. John's Lutheran Church. September 17th at 12 p.m., or I'm sorry, that's September 7th, the following day. Me Central Back to School event at the East Side Community Center. September 9th, the Steilacoom Neighborhood Association meeting in Steilacoom Community Center. September 11th is a 911 remembrance ceremony, and that location is to be determined. We have on September 15th, the public arts reception. This will also feature the Korea Liberation exhibition that they'll have in commemoration of the 80th anniversary of Korea's independence to be displayed for the next month. And that's it, that I'll just go through September 15th.
Great.
Yeah.
And not to add yet another event to the calendar, but we haven't done one of the mayor coffee houses for a bit. We might want to do one in September in the ordinary course, or maybe even October. And I think that one would be an introduction of the city manager. An opportunity for whomever wants to come to reflections on his first week,
Yes, and that is,
or 5 weeks or whatever it might be.
that is scheduled for September 24th at 6 p.m. Mayor's Coffee House at the Fort Steilacoom Park.
In the absence, I don't know if you staff had something planned for that one, but that might not be a bad topic.
Oh, that's the introduction.
It is.
Yes. Yeah, it was going to be earlier, but the new city manager, Doug Russell, wouldn't be there in time for that one.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
the 24th September and that's the topic.
Yes, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that
Okay.
works.
Okay,
Works great.
well, since we're in September 24th, I might as well go back to September 18th.
Oh, boy. Sorry I asked.
Yeah, September 18th. Actually, let me go back to September 16th. That would be the next event, is the Fort Steilacoom Park Neighborhood Association at 6:30 PM at Fort
See it, yeah.
Steilacoom Park.
We'll have to get that on the calendar, Ms. Clerk.
September
16th.
September 18th at 4:30 PM is the Springbrook Neighborhood Meeting at Springbrook Park. September 18th, we have scheduled the American Lake Ribbon Cutting Ceremony at American Lake Park the event is between 4 to 7 PM. And our state lobbyist, Shelley Helder, is coordinator with the legislatures to be a part of the photo op. And that would
Okay.
be Senator Noble, Representative Levitt,
Mhm.
and Representative Bernalski.
Hmm.
And I'll stop there,
Okay.
even
thank
though
you.
there's only one more event for the month of September, which is September 27th, the Air Force Ball at Hotel Murano.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so you have a lot going on.
Yeah. Sure, Laura Sella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question on the N Brothers Bakery ribbon cutting. We've got it, or at least on my calendar, it's showing on the 22nd. And you said the 14th. So which one is it?
I think their last time, there was a different day. I think that was August 6th, and City Clerk Brianna Schumacher looked into that one, and it is scheduled for August 14th. And it should be updated on your
11:30, I
calendar
think, yeah.
if it hasn't been.
Friday, August 22nd.
So it is the 22nd.
Twice.
Okay.
August 22nd. Okay. I'll see what I can do for him. A little challenging. So, okay, thank you. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, very good. Any questions of Ms. Kraus? Very good. Well, then we'll go to council comments. Mr. Boki, you're up.
Hoping to make it to Fort Silicon Park because I don't know if I'll make it the Tuesday after next. So I'm gonna probably go there for the Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles, yeah. Nice to
Yeah,
go to
some of
them.
those songs are gonna hit hard, I think, for you. But yeah, the Eagles tribute band. Anyway, yes, that's my plans. So
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I hope you hold up. Yeah.
I'll hopefully do just fine. Councilmember Laura Sella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Eagles, they were from the 70s?
Yeah, exactly.
I just,
I still hear a lot of their stuff.
Was
on
he
the
born
upper
yet?
rock.
no,
No.
I was not.
Are you kidding?
No, I was
Thanks
born in
for rubbing that.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. I know. Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the National Night Out last week.
It was
That was
great.
really great. It's good to
Mhm.
see my fellow council members, talk with a number of the officers, and then talk with lots of members of our community who are really happy with how crime is down.
Good.
And are really happy to see us out there. So,
That's great.
thank you.
Good report. Councilmember Pearson. Taking it up.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, National Night Out, took the kids, went and visited a few of the parks, and it seemed like, most of the events that we went to, they were, bigger than the previous and, gosh, yeah, lots of fun out there. Great seeing people get out, had nice weather, so, the cops made it around to all the places that we were at and, yeah, lots of positive comments. It was a good night out.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too had a great time on National Night Out. Went all around to a bunch of different parks and neighborhoods, ended with the neighborhood in my neighborhood with Councilmember Laura Sella. We were there. So it's always great to talk to people. It's people that I see when I'm walking or driving by and wave on the road. So I just thought it was just a great night and really enjoyed also being with the police and talking with them too. So that was wonderful. And I will see you at the Eagles concert tomorrow.
Wow.
I will be there. I like that it's full Eagles. Yeah, we think it, not the Eagles tribute band. But I'm looking forward to that. The concerts and the farmers market have been so wonderful this year. Just the turnout is great and the community just always really seems to enjoy it. And I also am going to try and attend the desserts on the driveway at the library on Wednesday. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brandstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would echo the comments about the National Night Out and how that is remained and is proving to be a positive event in the community for both just opening conversations with our first responders from both fire and police as well as going on. You know, a couple of things that I noted that were very positive is that in the Edgemere neighborhood, they have gone into now in a cycle that has gone through for 4 consecutive National Nights Out of where a different neighbor has hosted the event to be there to truly make it a thing that includes that entire neighborhood and the expectation, and they've already identified the next new venue for next year, and that worked out well. And then I guess I would also note that in 2 of the National Night Out events are actually sponsored by credit unions within the city. The American Lake Credit Union and Harborstone each have a site that they sponsor and have now for a number of years. And so that adds some structure to that event to be able to go through and do that. I think and there are a lot of good things, but there were also some new locations this year, and I'm glad to see that took hold to be able to go and do that. This past Saturday, I did attend the Tacoma, Washington Korean American Association celebration of Korean Liberation Day and commemoration of it, to be able to go and do that. I truly was able to make good use of Ms. Grimley provided me some good talking points to work into some remarks that were there. And I received both comments of again, reiterating that organization's feeling that they have been developing a closer relationship with the city to be able to go and do that, and want to continue to do that. And as can be mentioned by the fact that they're going to be sponsoring some art display here in the city hall here in the coming month, to be able to go and do that. So I think that's was a positive thing that's going forward. I have been receiving some additional feedback from residents on American Lake regarding the what they view as a recent issues with the lake level, being able to go and do that, and that I do understand that right now the issue sort of is centered on the maintenance and operation of a weir that operates the level, and that is makes what residents feel is a significant change that both impacts their use of their property and how that works out, as well as how by creating greater areas of shallow water is affecting the fact that invasive milfoil mitigation is complicated. One of the things that they had asked, that they thought that this would be one of those items that would be better if the city were managing it, because we would be more responsive to the variety of concerns at the lake level concerns rather than just the flood control mitigation that seems to be the sole portion of the county. And this is, you know, sometimes there have been in the history of cityhood, some items that were county responsibilities through contracts with other agencies. You know, a large example is Fort Steilacoom Park, that when we incorporated, there was a contract with the county had with the state to operate it as a park, but were not doing so proactively. Okay, and we ended up negotiating with the county to take over the active work of the park, as well as, you know, funding improvements to do that, and that has turned out well. There have been some others, but most recently, when we felt we would be better stewards of the old settler cemetery. Okay, in terms of not just doing the minimum required, but of taking a look at it and recognizing the ecological value of that, that we could do that with better than the county and negotiated taking that over. I think the matter of the weir is more complicated, because there's a structure there that, while it doesn't seem to be in immediate need of repairs, it's an older structure, and so it could at some time, if we were to look to go in and take it over, but it could be operated in a way that is more responsive to the concerns of residents along the lake, which are, apart from the federal and state properties, are exclusively Lakewood residents. And so I think it's something that we should look at it. Now, city staff have some concerns about that in terms of what really is the long-term impact about having to maintain the weir, if that would be a part of any agreement for us to be able to go and do that. You know, that was one of the same sort of complications we had with the Fort Steilacoom Park piece about who's really got to maintain the barns and those sorts of things. And that getting a clear understanding of that. So there is some lack of clarity about really what the fiscal costs of our taking it on, but I believe we should at least pursue the feasibility of doing that to take a look, because I think we are the municipal entity that is closer to the residents that have the concern than the county is, and we may be able to better deal with that, or not. But I think that we should embark on just pursuing it. I didn't learn until today that the county in the past had offered to let us take it over. It has been my impression that that had not been something that was there. So I'm going on off, but I was just not. I think that it's not an issue that it's going to go away in the mind of residents, and I think it's one that we should research to see whether there's a role for us or not. You know, I'd like to gather some information about that and have staff take a look at doing that and schedule a time to come back with us about what they find about what it would take so we can make a decision.
Great.
And that's really all that I have for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I would be supportive of that because I too have received a number of requests from folks about the issue with the lake level at American Lake. And so to the extent we might be able to coordinate, not just with our staff, but maybe we can take the laboring oar and I can do it to contact Councilmember Hitchen to see if we can do a collaborative review, if they're willing to do it, of what it might take for the city to assume responsibility for the weir. And at what cost? And perhaps before turnover, if we got to that point, there would be some sort of a structural inspection of it to know, what we're getting into in terms of future capital costs and those kinds of things. As we all know, last week we declined to adopt a resolution or an ordinance, resolution on the 500,000 plus of flood control district monies and swim monies for purposes of the I-5 flood analysis or project 30% design work. Well, these are monies that can be used in part for flood control purposes within our own, city of Lakewood for the benefit, the greater benefit, in my humble opinion, of more residents in a more immediate way. So there may be an opportunity to get the yes. I'd be okay with that. Are you guys similarly okay with at least looking into it?
We can look at it, but understand the weir is not in the city of Lakewood. It is in unincorporated Pierce County. It's on the base. So we would now be taking responsibility for something that isn't in the city of Lakewood. Two, there's
Garrison Command.
there's two sides to this dam or weir, as we call it. There's the lake, which we're solely focusing on. Then there's the creek that the water eventually runs into. If more water is kept in the lake, less water goes down in the creek. And there's impacts to that, right? If it's fish and those kind of things. So
A good point.
it would, so there are, anytime there's a drop of water in the state of Washington, there are numerous constituencies here, right? Anyone along there and the tribe needs to be consulted, right? And I don't know that, I'm not saying that because it's not clear that the county talked to anybody when they lowered it, right? So I don't know why it was higher and now it's lower, or they just don't want to go out there twice a year anymore or whatever. I don't understand the situation. I'll be the first to tell you, but I will say we would be taking control of something not in our jurisdiction, outside of our jurisdiction, and our constituency is the people on the lake, not anybody below the lake. And as sure as the day we say, hey, there won't be any water going down that creek towards DuPont anymore for 10 months a year, you're going to hear it, right? So two sides to the dam here and lots of constituents, and going outside. We've never done very well when we've gone outside our jurisdiction. That's what I'll say. So we need to be very careful.
Sure. You have a thought on that?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Pearson?
I would echo Mr. Boki's comments on that. I've heard through my day job that they've had Pierce County has had challenges, getting people on base to do the maintenance, getting equipment on base to do maintenance when they had to get like heavy equipment out there. You have to still go through the base and that whole process. So, so a simple 2-3 hour task turns into a couple of days because you're trying to, so it's just things
we
like
may have a
that.
better relationship, but.
Yeah, so things like that. And then, whenever you're dealing with the water, there's upstream, there's downstream, and what happens in between. I've also heard kind of some different things that, the weir wasn't being changed, at a point in time back in history. And then, someone found the document kind of and was like, oh, we have to be maintaining this. So now we're going to go out there and do this per the schedule that is, in the contract or whatever. So I don't know where it's at now, if it's just a once a year or twice a year, or now they're doing it per the schedule and people are like, oh, well, we don't like what this is, but this is what it says in the contract. So so there's some kind of studies that need to be done if it's going to be adjusting the weir outside of whatever is in the prescripted,
Fair enough.
agreement right now. So.
it's been my colloquial understanding that the only reason that the boards exist are to avoid quote downstream flooding, not to necessarily enhance fish habitat or whatever, which may be the case, but it's always been this ostensive, flooding avoidance concern. But that's anecdotal. So, okay, I think we've given enough guidance on that. Deputy Mayor, you have some comments for tonight?
Thank you,
Tell
Mr.
us
Mayor.
about your new jacket, perhaps?
Next week. Yeah, I will. National Night Out, I will agree that it was a lot of fun, a lot more this year than it had been in the past, I think. So a lot of people were excited to be out there. But as far as the Joint Visualist McCoy Hall of Fame inductees that were there was 2 new inductees, and there was a long list of people that receiving the blazer. So that was the first time that I guess they've given the blazer.
Mhm.
So it was really a good turnout, and I had never been to that location.
Hmm.
It's beautiful. It's
beautiful out
right
there.
on the lake. It's
Mhm.
absolutely beautiful. The lake was so still and calm. It was the, what is it called? The American Lake Russell's Landing.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Enjoy it while there's still water.
So the jacket, yes, I will wear because I want to be, they suggested that we wear it to community events to show their appreciation and our appreciation for what they do for us. So I'm excited about that, and I
Great.
will wear it proudly. And thank you for being there. You and,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Branstetter. That's all.
Thank you very much. I too enjoyed National Night Out. Great event. Enjoyed, I think I went to 5 locations, 4 or 5. It's tough to get to all of them within that short period of time because you want to spend quality time chatting with folks. But I went to Oak Brook out there. They had a big group out there. Of course, we were all at American Lake. I stopped on a couple smaller ones along the way to American Lake Park, and then went to Sally Saunders' place at the end of the evening, as did many of you there. So it was a really nice grouping of neighbors doing good things to get the word out about all things community. And then I attended the event over there for Ms. Moss, Deputy Mayor Moss, and others at American Lake, and it was great to interface with the commanding general as well as our garrison commander. I think we have strong relationships. I reemphasized our desire to set up a time to do our 2-2 Striker Brigade sort of command and spouse meet and greet at Thornwood. And I know our city clerk is working on some dates for that, so more to follow on that. And hopefully the commanding general might be one to attend that as well. So we got lots going on this week and next, as you heard, so I don't want to belabor that. As you received from the city manager, there was a colloquy back and forth with the library executive director. I had received, maybe you have received, just comments from residents who were not excited about piles of belongings and shopping carts plunked in the front of the library. And it wasn't that it was impeding access for people to get in, it was just visually distasteful for folks and their young kids going to the library. And Ms. Casarati's response was that they hadn't received any complaints, at least staff hasn't inside. So I'm going to encourage all of those who've contacted me to contact her and raise their concerns directly. And if you know of people who are contacting you about the same situation, let's make sure Director Casarati gets all the information that she may need to help with her staff. Because I will make sure I'll put that out on social media that she's the one to contact. So I'll make sure that she gets all sorts of good information. Has anybody else received any complaints about that or seen it on social media? Yeah, it's
terrible.
it's terrible, right? Have you seen it as well? Yeah, it's not good. Mr. Branstetter.
Yeah, and actually, the tenure of most of the complaints that I've had involve not so much access to the library, but the bus stop that's right there, that it tends to be the benches there and that tend to be frequently occupied by either persons or just belongings that are there, so that it becomes somewhat of a pure transit issue, but nothing is there so long that it would trigger our ordinance regarding
Right.
storing,
quote, unquote,
storing
camping,
belongings.
yeah.
You know, we do have an ordinance, but things aren't left there that length of time where that's enforceable by what we've put in code.
It certainly doesn't mean that our embedded mental health professional and team can't go out and inquire if they need services and see how we might be of service to them so that perhaps, you know, if they need help, we can find some assistance for them.
You know, that picnic bench over by America's Credit Union,
Yes,
that's a gathering spot for them recently too.
I mean, that's almost to the point where they're kind of camping out there
Mhm.
because they come in the late afternoons or evenings and they're there in the morning.
Early in the morning, yes, they
Yep.
are.
That's over right on the corner of Motor Avenue and Mount Tacoma Drive, right over by Little Church there. So, you know, a part of it is they're doing a good job of providing good library services. People have enjoyed the new library. I'm concerned about increasing public crankiness that if and when they ever come to the voters of Lakewood for a bond issue, it may not happen because people are just not happy with stuff. And I would prefer not to see that be the reason. My thoughts, I guess.
I agree.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you all for tonight. We appreciate it. We'll be adjourned.